Welcome to Cincinnati NAACP Truth to Power on Sin Digital Media. My name is Nicole. I'm the Second Vice President, Criminal Justice Chair for the Cincinnati NAACP, and I have a very, very special guest, Mrs. Sherry Richardson, the Treasurer for the Cincinnati NAACP. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Awesome, awesome.
Good.
So glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
And Truth to Power is the podcast where you get your information, motivation, and inspiration to be the change in your community because you are the movement. And as always, our president, Robert Richardson Sr., your husband.
Oh, yes. Yes, of course.
The president always sends his well wishes and greetings to all of you. And thank you again for tuning in and listening to Truth to Power today. We really have some great subject matter to talk about. Money. That's why we have the treasurer here. Not only is she the treasurer for the Cincinnati NAACP, but her background is in finance. And Mrs. Richardson, or should I call you Sherry?
Sherry is great. Yes.
Sherry.
Yes.
Please tell us a little bit about your role as the treasurer for the Cincinnati NAACP and your professional background.
Okay. So, hi. Like Nicole said, I'm Sherry Richardson. I'm a CPA, and also I am the treasurer of the NAACP. And I'm a lifelong member of the NAACP,
Wow.
which is key. I've been in the NAACP since I was a teenager. My parents believed in the movement. I would describe myself not just as a CPA, but as an activist as well.
Mm-hmm.
An activist for wealth and for wealth management for my people.
Okay.
And so being a CPA and coming from a family of 12 kids, 12 children. Money was something that, even as a child, my father, he could not read and write, so I paid the bills, and I was in third grade.
What?
So I learned about money, and I'm an entrepreneur. I have my own CPA firm for 13 years. I used to own a restaurant as well, Taste of Sherry's.
Oh, yes.
And
you can cook very well.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank
you
you. But what's important here is why wealth management? Why money? And let me just state the obvious. I'm a black female, and that is obvious to people when I walk into a boardroom or wherever. You can't hide that fact, and you don't want to. But what's different is that in the boardrooms and in the accounting firms that I've been in, I'm one of very, very few African Americans. And I wonder where the people are in that space because, believe it or not, people think that CPAs are very nerdy and it's a boring business, but it's not. Actually, the richest people on the planet are people on Wall Street. And they're what? What are they? They're accountants by trade and finance majors. So I'm urging everyone to understand more about taxes and money. And that's what my role is today. We're going to talk a little bit about what tax laws.
Yes, it is. And time is, I know for you, time is money, so we're going to hit it. Well,
correct.
As you all know, it's tax season. So a lot of people are looking forward to their refund checks. And but we are under the Trump presidency, and Trump has his new tax laws. And of course, these laws, they were supposed to be modeled after the Reagan-era Tax Reform Act of 1986, which was a massive piece of legislation that took about 2 years, to put together. They did deliberations, hearings, testimonies. But the Trump tax law, they whipped that together in a matter of like 51 days. There was no real negotiations, and not one Democrat voted for the bill. So this is a partisan bill entirely. And because of the Rush bill, many experts say there are provisions in it that will not do what it's supposed to do. And it could take years to fix it. They also say that this will add far more to the U.S. deficit over the next 10 years than the $1.5 trillion that the bill was designed to cost. And many of the changes undermine the integrity of the tax code and will allow, well-advised taxpayers to game the new rules, which...
You'll need to connect to the internet.
The tax cuts were designed to pad in the pockets of the wealthy and uber rich. And I don't know why anyone would expect less from a plutocrat president. I mean, we haven't even seen his tax returns, and his efforts and everything isn't for low income, middle class, regular people. But Sherry's here to tell us what these tax laws actually mean to you and how you can navigate through this right now. So one of the questions I have: what are some of the new changes in the new Trump tax laws?
Well, some of the newer changes.
Take notes, yeah.
The newer changes, and which most people are not thinking about right now, is the changes to the wealthy, for the wealthy. For example, if you own strip malls and if you own property and real estate, think about Trump and real estate. That is the biggest chunk of money that's being saved. And then if you own a corporation, especially a large one, but any corporation, the tax rate has dropped dramatically. Also, here's something else to watch out for and understand. The tax changes are temporary for normal people, yet they're permanent for the large corporations, for corporate people. Again, temporary for us, permanent for corporates. Okay, and also some of the other tax implications are it's like a generational tax, gift tax. It's so that these older gentlemen, and they're mostly all men, the Republicans and the Senate and Congress, etc. So that when they go or they die, their children would have to pay a lot less taxes than they ever would have. So the money doesn't circulate back. Forget about trickle. It don't even come back.
Sprinkle?
Okay. It doesn't. No sprinkling. Nothing. No sparkle. You don't even. No, nothing. So that's the big picture. And raiding the Treasury, it means that, think about this, the deficit. And I know that individually we're all thinking, oh God, I can't even afford bus fare sometimes. But the deficit will be for your kids and grandchildren to pay. Huge amount. So not only are they going to get tax breaks, but they're going to get it on our backs over and over again for generations. It'll take us forever to get back to a decent economy. Wow. Next, here's the part that affects us directly, if I can kind of share that with people, Nicole. People have been saying, why don't I have a bigger tax refund this year?
Or you owe the government.
Or you owe, yes, yes. And some of my clients, first time they've ever had to write a check, an additional check. Remember now, you're writing a check to them every time you get paid. There's some money that goes to them. But this time you owe them even more. And you want to know why? Well, there was a tax break, right? When he signed that bill, the tax rate for individuals decreased by a small 2%. What does that mean? Less taxes were being taken out of your check. The employer automatically changed the formula like they were supposed to. Less taxes mean you got maybe $10, $15, $20 more on your check. And it looked like, oh, this is heaven. We're doing good now.
A little gas money.
Oh, maybe. Yes, exactly. A little gas money. But keep your eye on the ball, because now when you file your taxes, you'll notice that the tax refund is less. And people will say, well, it's because we gave you more of it up front. But keep remembering that is your money. That's your money. Whether they give it to you here or there, whether they take it out here or there, it's all your money. Okay. What we have to do now is decide what kind of strategy we want to use for our wealth building. So Nicole asked me, what can the normal average person do? What can single mothers do? What can African Americans do to adjust for this new tax reality we have? One thing, first of all, is to think about what's your long-term strategies for wealth building. Right. Okay, you probably say, yeah, she's talking from her own point of view. Let me just remind you, I said I'm from Mount Auburn with 12 kids. They were all my brothers and sisters. They still all alive, okay? So income did not come easy for me, for my family. And it's still a struggle. But let me tell you, you do have to think about something important. It's called a legacy. What are you going to leave?
Legacy.
Your children, even for your old age, legacy. What are you going to leave? You have to think about that, because that's what the people in Congress are thinking about themselves. So you have to start thinking about that. First of all, you might want to see if you need to adjust your W-4. That's the form that you go to HR or your employer and say, hey, you might need to take out a little more taxes, give the government a little more taxes, because I don't want to pay anything at the end of the year, please. Also, if you have a tax advisor or a wealth manager, you want to talk to that person. And should everybody have one? Absolutely. Can you afford it? You cannot afford not to. Some of this advice will help you understand the things that you can get from a tax advisor. Just the advice alone that you'll get today would be worth a lot. Here's something else that's going on, Nicole, with taxes. There are two different types of tax. One is people who get a big refund because they got a lot of kids. They work, they got earned income credit. This time, what's going on now is the child tax credit is a little higher, but they took away that standard personal deduction, meaning you can have 6 kids.
Yeah, it don't matter.
It don't matter no more.
Wow.
So there, keep an eye on that. Also, if all of us, we want to own property, right? Own property. So I know you bought a house. I don't know if I'm throwing out your business.
No, it's fine.
That was
I want
to
know about that.
Yeah. Okay.
That interest rate.
Yes, exactly. So purchasing a house was one way you can deduct, things from your taxes, property taxes and all of that. Now it's capped at $10,000. What do I mean by that? You pay property tax on your building, right? Your home. You have taxes, income taxes coming out from the state and the city. All of those taxes. You have property taxes, like if you buy a car. All of those taxes used to be deductible, all of it. Now it's capped at $10,000. I know a lot of people pay more than that just in their state taxes. Look at your W-2 and see how much you pay. And then do the calculation on how much taxes you have on your property. I don't want to make this all complicated and boring. I just want to tell you that it's capped at $10,000, and that means a lot to middle class people.
Right.
Also, in addition to your personal exemption is gone, the number of people times a certain dollar amount, that's gone. They're capping stuff so that you don't have to itemize anymore. The president said he wants to make the taxes easier to fill out. What has happened is he made it almost impossible for us meaning normal people, to have tax breaks, loopholes, anything.
Really?
So now there's a cap on any kind of property taxes you pay. And at the same time, he took away other things that would make it almost impossible for average people to itemize on their taxes. Now, I wanted to say up front, and I should have said that all of this conversation is basically for me to share some knowledge with folks, but it is not for me to, since everybody, all the audience they're not my clients, right? I want you to understand that I'm not providing any tax services or advice right now. I'm speaking broadly about specific things that are happening generally in the tax law and the tax consequences. And so if you want to use it personally, you have to get a tax professional. Or, and I'm not talking about going to the corner of an H&R Block or something. Somebody who really is going to dig into what you're doing. And then if your tax advisor doesn't ask you about what you're planning, then you need somebody else.
All right.
They have to ask you, are you planning to send children to school soon?
Yeah.
College. Are you planning to buy a house?
Right.
Are you planning to invest?
So that's part of the, how we can build wealth, because, as you know, the wage gap between African Americans and white Americans and, just people of color is such a wide gap in the disparity. And a lot of that is historic.
Yes.
And I got a few notes here that, just to kind of tell the story of how we've received this wide gap in wages.
Okay.
So we go back to, the 13th Amendment in 1865. Slavery legally prevented blacks from building wealth until the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So you take 1865 to 1964.
I'm doing the math. Yep.
Jim Crow laws continued segregation in the South. They detailed what jobs blacks could take and how much they could be paid. They created an indentured servitude.
Yes.
And they restricted where blacks lived and traveled.
Yes.
Public transportation and restaurants, you name it.
Yes. Hold on. Go back to the one about they restricted where we could live.
Mm-hmm.
That held us back a tremendous amount. So therefore, there was no jobs where we lived. Services were not good where we lived. That had a mindset that spiraled out of control. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. And to continue on, 1950, white mobs lynched blacks at least once a week for some who perceived breach of their racial hierarchy. Most of the lynchings took place in small southern towns where poor white farmers perceived blacks as an economic threat. In 1935, the Social Security Act excluded farm workers and domestic workers from accruing benefits. At that time, most blacks still lived in the South, and they were illiterate. That meant they were more likely to be farm workers and domestic workers.
Yes.
As a result, 2/3 of blacks never received Social Security wealth building opportunities.
Right.
Another thing, assisting veterans with housing, education, and jobs. Between 1944 to 1971, it spent $95 billion on benefits, but it was left to the states to administer. As a result, black veterans in the South were denied access.
Wow.
In 1954, Brown versus Board of Education ruled that school segregation was unconstitutional, but schools followed local neighborhood boundaries, and neighborhoods were segregated. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act ended Jim Crow laws. In 1965, the Voting Rights Act protected blacks' rights to vote. In 1968, the Fair Housing Act ended legal discrimination in renting and selling homes. But the legacy of Jim Crow laws created a structural inequality that's been difficult to erase. Despite these laws, discrimination against blacks owning wealth has continued. Welfare programs such as TANF, SNAP, forbid beneficiaries from accumulating wealth.
Yes.
In some states, they can't. Yeah. In some states, they can't save more than $1,000 or own a car worth more than $4,650. And so that's just a little bit. It goes on and on, but it kind of tells you the telltale of, we're not here because we're lazy and we don't want to work.
Correct.
This is a well strategic,
plot,
if you could say,
strategy to keep us in our place
through American law
and broke. Yes, and in poverty.
And so I like the example someone used a while back, where they said, imagine a two-man race, and then imagine the one man having a 400-year head start.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so we have to, despite all of that, find our way, find our path. So because they have benefited from generational wealth, from the blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors.
Correct.
We're experiencing, some of us, generational poverty.
Yes.
And we have to find our way out of that.
Most of us, almost all of us, yes. Yeah. We would all be a lot better off had we had the same starting point as the white man of 400 years. But it's not all lost. The hope is not all lost. Right now, right this second, we have to make up our minds to understand what's going on around us, what has happened. Nicole gave you some great history. Do some research. Don't stop there. Don't just allow this podcast to be the only source of information. You have to study and learn and verify what was just said. Then you have to understand what has happened to us. There's some great books to read about brainwashing and all of that, because that holds us back as well. But let me tell you what we can do right this minute. Grandma is sick, right? But she owned a house. We don't have to turn around and sell her house because we arguing over who's going to get what. That's our legacy. Hold on. If you're in Evanston, if you're in Avondale, in Mount Auburn, and all of the other places, hold on to your property first. That's number one. Property builds wealth. And like my father always said, there's only so much land available. Put things in a trust fund for the family and call it a family trust. Okay.
Family trust.
Therefore, it'll be around for a long time, and there'll be some really, and it's protected too. There's ways to protect trust from excessive taxes. You know.
Is it better to have a trust or a will, or does it matter?
Wait, and will is a whole different story. It's better to have both.
Okay.
Both, and one does not trump the other. No, excuse my pun. No pun. Yeah, it doesn't trump one or the other. Also, protect what you have right now. I don't care if you feel like you don't have anything. If you rent, have good renter's insurance. Read that policy and make sure that it covers you for liabilities or damages to other people, because your kid go out there and hit somebody with something, they're gonna sue you. You have a fire and the landlord demands you to have a limited amount of insurance, and we're going to do the little bit that we have to protect that person that owns that building. No. You want to be able to start over almost new if you have a fire in your apartment. You don't want the Red Cross giving you crumbs. You want to have an insurance policy that will replace everything you got. That's protecting your wealth. That's what I call it.
That's some good advice.
And next, I told you it's worth having a CPA with you. Okay, protect what you have, and then have a legacy mindset. Like I said, keep grandmother's house, grandpa's house as an investment for the family. Invest time in teaching our children about money and lead by example. What do I mean by that? When my children were young, we played the stock market games and stuff. I mean, you got to sit down and talk. Yeah, I bought Rob one share of Disney just to show him over the years what happens to a share. That it tripled and then it split again, and this is how much it's worth now. Also, Apple was not thought of as a really good stock. I'm talking about back in the day, okay, y'all. I'm old. Okay, I got grown kids, but Apple was nothing then, and IBM and others were just overwhelming it, and there was rumors of it demise and everything. But I said I like Apple because they're creative. Their computers are different colors, and it's got that big beautiful apple. I said let's invest some in Apple. Good God Almighty, right, people?
Jackpot.
Right. So, but we have to start thinking, not just spending our money and buying a pair of gym shoes. Ask grandma and grandpa and aunts and uncles, when you have a birthday, don't pin $1 on me. Don't give me no present. I want some money in my bank account. Here's my debit card. Just you can put some money in there. Go right to my savings for my college education, and then they can get a tax deduction as well. Ask for things that matter, that last. That's an investment. I heard a young lady say the other day, yeah, this dress. I said, it's a beautiful dress. She was like, yeah, it's an investment. I said, I'm sorry. That's not a word for clothes. No, babe. No.
Said it was an investment.
Oh, good Lord, that's not an investment.
Oh,
no, I can show you what an investment look like, and that ain't it. An investment grows and it appreciates over time. That's an investment. Also, save at least 10% of your income. Okay, again, please, I get this from some of my clients and even some of my nieces and nephews. Well, I can barely afford to do what I'm doing now. But guess what? As soon as you get that tax return, that ain't yours no more. Why don't you save it for something? Because you didn't have that yesterday. Right? You get a windfall profit. Somebody give you $100. Put it away. Put away 10% of what you own, what you make every single paycheck, and first build up that savings for emergencies. And God knows we all have those. But also save some away that you're not going to touch, but that's going to be for your investment. When you talk to your advisor, you're going to talk about what and how you're going to invest. Also, when you take a job, always say yes to the 401. Say yes. Say heck yeah.
401k.
And 100% investment, so that this free money, you just leave it sitting down on the table. And you're paying taxes on it. And remember, even if you just make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year, you got to save some of that and save it for when you get old, because you're not going to want to work when you get 65, 70 years old. Your bones start hurting.
Now, what happened? Because I know I've done that all my working life since I was.
What's that? Save 401k?
Yes, but I don't think I understood the whole rollover. So what if you got like money? Just how do you find that?
So you need to talk to a financial advisor. And people leave their 401ks somewhere. They leave it. They leave jobs. You can roll those over. Don't take a check for it. You want to what they call rollover, because if you take a check and you're not at retirement age, you pay a hefty penny for that.
Penalties.
You pay a lot of penalties and interest, and then taxes on it. So you want to roll it over and resist the urge to think of it as something you can ready to spend. Even if you're in dire straits, borrow money first before you ever spend your retirement fund. You will regret it. And the longer it sits there, the more it grows, and the more you put in, it grows exponentially. So there's some calculations that I can tell you about that'll blow your mind. So, if you save 10%, how much you'll have when you get my age. Also, save at a black bank. There's a couple now. Yeah, and also, if you don't have access to a black bank, know a banker in your neighborhood. Literally, when you cash your checks, go up and talk to the banker. Why?
Relationships.
Yes. You know how you get drama when you go cash your check, and you get drama when you get ready to do something? It's because we do not talk to bankers. We act like they owe us something. That's our money. So when you get your paycheck, never go to a check cashing place. Ever. Never do a payroll. What do you call it? A payday lending scheme. If you want any kind of wealth, if you want any kind of a life that involves not always struggling all the days of your life, don't go those places. Do not do it.
I thought it was against the law, babe, to have those places.
No, you see them on every corner. You notice where they're at? Do you ever notice where they are? Whatever's in our neighborhoods, I wouldn't even go to it. That would be my strategy in life itself. Check cashing places.
No groceries. No fresh fruit.
No
markets.
No. So what's in our neighborhoods? Stop and look at what's there and say, oh, that CPA said, don't go there. We have to go outside of our neighborhood to find banks and do it. But never, ever, I don't care how much you're suffering, do not do a payday loan. People get stuck in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because
it costs a lot. It costs you more than you'll ever imagine. If somebody just put a spreadsheet together and say how much fees, how much interest, how much, it'll blow your mind.
So what do you think about like credit counseling places? Like, is that even a legitimate path to go? Like paying someone to help you get your credit together. A lot of times I feel like it's stuff you can do yourself, but is that even, or is that just a way to?
It's a scam.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Again, the ads on the radio stations. Just think about, change your station sometime and listen to what some of the white people listen to in country music, and see what kind of ads are pushed to them.
Wow.
And then they say the IRS is after you. Call us. Ooh, you think the IRS after you now? Where do you getting one of them scams? So I would never do that. I would never do a payday loan or a check cashing place. I would literally not do that.
So our access to capital for a lot of people is limited. People have bad credits. And so when they are in a crunch and they need money, what is the best method to get that extra income if you don't advise to go to these check cashing places or, taking that route?
And I understand 100%. Sometimes we have to delay what we want and need sometimes. We almost have to suffer sometimes. We almost have to catch, but no. But it's short term. I'm talking
sacrifice,
a lifetime of suffering versus in your youth, and you're in your 20s and you don't have a car. You better go and get on that bus. Save that money. There's a few things. You asked me about wealth in African Americans. What gets us into a lot of trouble wealth-wise is our credit. Even as a young person, you want to watch your credit. Go ahead. You have a question about the credit?
No.
Yeah, because the credit itself, though, can cost you probably. Let me see. I did the calculations just recently again, and it's over $1 million in a lifetime because you have bad credit. Can you imagine? And you probably saying, well, what do you mean by that? For example, go to buy a car. You're going to pay a whole lot more and you're going to get a junkier car. and you'll be buying a new car again, but also the interest rates are a lot higher, sometimes double what other people pay. Interest. You go to look for an apartment, you can't get a regular apartment, and if you do, they're gonna charge you a lot more rent. Trust me, because of your credit. And there's some places will not let you rent because of your credit. Also, buying a house, interest rates, a lot more. Yes. What else?
And raising taxes, so.
Yeah, loans. If you try to get loans, the interest rates are a lot higher. So it'll cost you dearly. Bad credit does. How do you get bad credits? I've seen some of my clients had bad credit when they were 15 or 16 because the gas electric bill was too high and it got shut off. What did they do? They went and put the bill in a kid's name.
But can they get away with that? That's like identity theft, though. They still stuck with that.
Talking about mama, you gonna send her to jail?
Well, yeah, I guess.
Okay, all right, we're good.
I guess not.
Right, exactly. So, but
that's messed up.
You do want to be knowledgeable individually. You want to be knowledgeable about your credit and
your credit scores.
Yeah, and tactfully talk to your parents. Hey, look, no, if we can't pay the bill now, we're gonna have to do something else.
I'm not a CPA, but I think the key to fixing your credit is just paying off that debt. The more debt you pay down, the better your credit score.
Yes.
I got that Credit Karma, and every time something's paid, like, oh, your score is getting higher. This and that, whatever. So, I mean, and it just like kind of motivates you to keep paying things off and they're clear. But I wanted to ask, because we're running out of time.
Oh, okay.
For college students, people entering college, what advice would you give to those individuals and people leaving college that has debt hanging over them, school loans? Again,
this is I know I keep talking about suffering, but as a college student, you're tempted by the grants that you get and loans, and it looks like free money. It's the first time you ever had $1,000 in your pocket. Don't spend that money. That's not, because you're gonna have to pay money back. The grants, they don't last that long. Maybe 2 years at the most. After that, you have to start paying for your own education through loans. Loans are extremely expensive. So don't go out on a spending spree. Don't start giving your friends and your family. That money stays in the account for your education. Just think of it as insurance for a big paycheck after you graduate. That's how you have to think about it. Second, don't mess with credit cards. Don't mess your credit up. There's going to be offers of credit cards coming out of the woodwork. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Yeah, don't do it.
How do they build credit?
How do
they have no credit? How do they?
You build it slowly and advisedly. So you want to start with one small credit card. Keep in the back of your mind that is not free money. You can go in a store and nobody asks you for no money. They just ask you for that little piece of card. You give them that little plastic and you feel so free and you feel rich. But then you get the bill. Can you pay it? Remember to pay your debts. Pay them.
So
in full.
Not the minimum.
Right. Because you pay a lot for those jeans you try to get on sale for $25 end up costing you $200. Yeah, pay for it now. And don't buy anything you cannot pay for.
I don't like to use my credit card for like gas and food, because that's just kind of like disposable things, but just things that I know that I have to pay. Right. I have to pay my electric bill. I have to pay my phone bill, and I'm going to pay that in full. And and then you just keep that rotation, because you're going to pay those bills religiously, and it should keep your credit good in that respect. So
yes, and use those smartphones to Google, how do I keep my credit score at a reasonable place? How do I spend my student loans, and what kind of rates do I expect to have in 10 years? Do the homework. Use your smartphones to find out information.
You had something else?
That's it.
Let me.
Oh, one thing. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Always file your taxes.
Okay.
Always file your taxes. If you made money, file your taxes. Why?
You don't want the IRS coming after you.
Right.
You don't want to mess with the IRS.
Because the IRS will make up your income. Yeah, I know. It sounds strange, doesn't it? So they get things reported to them, like how much you made at a certain company, and then even small companies will send in a 1099 in your name saying, yeah, I gave so and so $600 or more. And then the IRS look at your records and see that you did not record that. Right. Always file. Always.
Everything.
Even if you cannot pay the taxes you owe, file. Because what happens is there's thousands of dollars in penalties. Thousands of dollars. I'd rather pay the interest on something I couldn't pay than the penalties for not filing. And then they come after you legally and take money out of your bank. It's just a mess. Always file.
You don't want garnishment. I used to work at a bank, and that was the department I worked for.
Oh, that's depressing.
I know, I was just ruining people's days. I hated it. I hated to do it.
They snatched all the money.
Yeah.
Tell
it was
them,
in different
people,
states. Different states.
Tell
And
them.
if they got a lien, if it's the IRS, if it's child support, it was all these different. Once that court order comes in, it goes. They go to every bank, and if they come across your account, and we get that court order, we have to go and seize that money out of your account. Now, luckily in Ohio, I think they have to leave at least $250. But everyone else, but in other states, like I dealt with all the states in this particular bank's footprint, and some states we was wiping it out, and people be calling mad. And then all we could say is just like, you had a court order on X, Y, and Z. Apologize, sorry. Yeah, but they was livid, and that's messed up. You don't want that, but it goes down. You better
really
believe
does.
it.
It
You
does.
better believe it.
It does.
Last question. I'm trying to think of all spectrums. So we got the college students and everyday people, but elderly people. You were talking about earlier that, say they didn't build enough income, Social Security or whatever, and they're living off a check that really doesn't take care of everything, all of their needs right now. Like, what can be done to help them, or what, they're kind of at an age where they really can't work, or maybe what advice do you have for?
Well, first of all, the
people.
elderly person has a family, then shame on the family. They need to help the elderly. Now, I'm not talking about mom who's still not old yet. She can still work. She needs to go on out there and work. But if you got an older parent, just do the best you can to take care of them. Here's the good news: there is a tax credit now for individuals that you take care of. They don't have to be your child or anything. It's like $500 you get every year if somebody you take care of them, most of their money and things they need. So there is a tax advantage to that.
Okay.
But also, as the children of aging parents start to protect what they do have, like talk to a professional about sheltering their home and all of that before they get to the point they need to be in a nursing home. Have a strategy when it comes to the wealth and things that grandma does have
before decline happens.
Exactly. And have all those paperwork signed, all of that stuff, living wills, and just go through your stuff. But this is more than we can cover today.
I know
it's a lot more.
Yes.
But the takeaway, yes, is insurance. Protect what you have, and also save. And there's going to be some suffering and delayed gratification, but it pays off, because you do not want to be, the only example I have is that I know people who, when they were young, they said, I don't have a car. Can you come and get me? Can you come and get me? Can you come and get me? And you do. You go and get them. Then in their 20s, can you come and get me? And then 30s, still coming to get them. 40, yeah, I don't have no car. I can't go. At what point do we get ourselves together?
Your life plan.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Have a plan for
your life.
So it's going to be some suffering, but it's not going to be the rest of your life. Just think about it like that, okay?
Doesn't have to be.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much,
You're
Sherry.
welcome.
Can you give information how people can maybe contact you if they want to utilize you, support
sure.
Black business?
Sure. It's called Richardson and Associates. It's on Ludlow Avenue, 366 Ludlow Avenue in Cincinnati. My website is www.richardsonassociates, spelled all the way out, A-N-D, Associates. Also, my number is 513-772-8348. Richardson and Associates. Okay?
And we're going to wrap it up. I've gotten a lot of good information. I hope you did too. Really appreciate our guest. She will be back because that was some good conversation, a lot of good information that I know you can use to help your household and build wealth. Let's build wealth.
Let's do
people.
it. Let's
build wealth. We don't want to be just consumers. We need to be owners. I think that's the main takeaway that we need to have. So thank you again for listening to Truth to Power, Cincinnati NAACP Truth to Power. I'm Nicole.
I'm Sherry Richardson.
And we're out.